Many people think that changing your life is about changing your habits. There's even a very famous best-selling book about that. And it makes sense. I mean, if your life is in the pits, you probably have picked up a few bad habits along the way. You're probably sleeping all day. Maybe you picked up drinking or doom scrolling. You waste all of your time looking at a screen when you could be doing something more productive. So changing your habits then will surely help. Kick those bad habits, pick up new ones that are better for you, sure. The problem is, this is unlikely to change your life in any meaningful way. Most people who go down the atomic habits route end up sliding back into their previous patterns very shortly because they're not addressing the underlying cause. They're not doing anything to fix what's really wrong. They're just slapping a Band-Aid on top of the infected wound. So there's some people who understand this and they come up with another idea, another strategy, and they say, well, it's not about changing your habits. It's about changing your mindset, about changing your beliefs about the world. See, if your life is in the pits, it's because you have the wrong beliefs. You believe you're a loser, and you believe that you deserve the life of a loser, so you make loser choices that get you here, where you are, the pits. And it's just a matter of changing that belief about yourself and making it, I'm a winner. So you see yourself as a winner. So you think the world is going to push you into winning. And so you have the courage to make winning choices. And then your life is going to turn around. And that feels like it makes more sense than just changing your habits. I mean, after all, your beliefs eventually become your actions. So if you change your beliefs, you don't have to change your habits. They will change themselves, right? The problem is, it's bullshit. The problem is, in order for you to do this, I mean, you can do it and it'll work for a little while. The problem is, your brain looks at reality, at objective reality, and sees yourself as a loser, for example. And then this is asking you to write a little fantasy story where you're a winner and repeat it to yourself. Basically, it's asking you to gaslight yourself into thinking that this that I'm seeing in the world is fake. Reality is this little fantasy that I wrote down in this piece of paper. And this is why most of the people that say change your mindset then use techniques like affirmations, where you have to stand in front of a mirror and repeat to yourself 100 times, I'm a winner, I'm a winner, I'm a winner. I deserve to be loved. I deserve that promotion. The world is going to manifest for me my wishes. It's going to conspire for me, you know? And why do you have to do that? Why do you have to repeat 100 times the same stupid phrase over and over again? It's because the technique is about overriding your senses. It's about overriding what you feel is true. And this, on the long term, end up making you feel much, much worse, because there's two things fighting inside of you now. There's what you actually see in the world is fighting against that little piece of paper of what you think you should believe. And that tension, that constant tension inside of you, gives you a lot of cognitive dissonance. You're living in a situation of tension, constant tension inside of you. And this turns into anxiety. And nobody wants to be more anxious. We want to be less anxious, right? Okay, so if it's not the habits and it's not the mindset, then what do we do about it? What do we do? Well, I'm going to tell you what I have learned from my personal experience. And I think it's very potent, and I think it's going to serve you very well. But see, what we have to do is we have to step back even further. So actions depend on beliefs. This is true. If you believe something, then your actions are going to align with your belief. But there is something that comes before even beliefs, and that is your perception of the world. It's your vantage point. It's the perspective from which you see reality. You can see reality from many different vantage points, And what you see will change. The landscape will change completely according to the angle from which you're looking. And the good thing is that you already have many different windows inside of your mind. They're already there. All you have to do is learn how to see from one window or another and how to switch your perspectives. And you can learn how to do that. So if you manage to change your perspective, you will no longer see yourself as a loser. You are not going to have to convince yourself that you're not. You're just going to be seeing reality from a different window and an angle in which you're something different. And then your beliefs will change to match the way you see reality, and then your actions will match your beliefs. So let me show you what I mean. All right? This is your mind. I drew this. This is your mind, and these are the windows, okay? These are the windows that you can think of your mind like, imagine that this is like a computer, right? Your brain would be the hardware, and this is the software. Like, this is the program that you're running inside your head. And these windows are the way that you perceive information from the actual world. You get information, and the information penetrates into you through these three windows that you're actually living inside your head, so you can peek out through them, okay? And they're very different landscapes. These windows have completely different landscapes. I'm gonna show you how it works. So we're going to use an analogy here to explain the differences between the windows. We're gonna see your mind and your entire life like it was a soccer match. Your life is a soccer match. And what do we need in order to have a soccer match? Well, we're gonna need a ball, right? And we're gonna need at least 2 players. And we're gonna need a spectator. We're gonna need bleachers, somebody who's watching the game. And those are your 3 windows. You see, you have window number 1, the ball. Window number 2, the player. Window number 3, the spectator. So what does window number 1 look like? Well, window number 1, if you peek through the window of the ball, you see yourself as the ball. What does the ball see? Imagine that you could see through the eyes of the ball. You could inhabit the ball. What do you see as the ball during a soccer match? Well, you really can't see much. You can see maybe the grass on the field that you're playing. But you do have many sensations. You see, you have many sensations because your life moves very fast, and all you feel is someone is kicking you. Someone kicks you and it hurts, ow, ow, and then you're flying across the field in one direction, and then when you get to the other side, someone else is kicking you. Why is this happening to me? And then you fly to the other side, and you have no idea why you're suffering, who is kicking you, or why. All you can feel is pain, fear, and desire for it to stop. And see, the ball window is the window that you're in, that you're looking through when you feel like a victim. When you feel like a loser, you're looking through the ball window. And the ball window has many bad things. Like I said, you feel like you don't understand why you're suffering so much. But at the same time, it has a lot of vitality because it moves very fast. And you can feel so many things so closely. So you see, it has its pros and its cons. But then if you open your perspective a little wider, you go to the second window, the player window. And if you can do the exercise of switching your perspective from being inside the ball to being inside the player, then all of a sudden you can see the ball and you can see that you're not the ball, you're the player. And the player can see other players and he can see the goal, the thing that he really wants to achieve. And so for the first time in this level, you finally have agency. Now you understand that your suffering has a purpose. You understand who is kicking you and why. And you understand that if you want to score a goal, you're going to have to kick the ball a little too, to get it into shape, to put the ball inside the net. And so from this perspective, you're no longer rolling across the floor of the field. You no longer feel the kicks. You no longer feel the grass caressing you as you roll around. You're the one calling the shots now. The problem from this perspective is you're very invested in the outcome of this game. You want to win. And you realize there's other people who also want to win. And if the other wins, you lose. So the stakes are very high. You're very passionate about this game. And you play hard. It's very good to get yourself unstuck to make this transition. The problem is you start having, like if you only look through this window, then you start having sometimes problems with other people because you want to win. The other person wants to win. You have an argument and your mind is on winning. And so sometimes you may say or do things that are hurtful to others. You may use yourself or others as tools to achieve your goals. You see? Because you're too invested in the game. And we have the final, the third perspective, and that perspective is the spectator. The spectator is if you widen your lens one more time, you can see it from the bleachers. See, when you were this guy, you could see the ball, you could see the other players that were close to you, and you could see the net. But you didn't really have awareness of everything that was going on. You didn't understand this football match had other participants that had an impact in what you could or couldn't do. You didn't know, when you didn't see the ball next to you, didn't know where it was. But when you're the spectator and you're looking from the bleachers, you can see the entire thing unravel. And for example, when you're having a discussion, if you're having the discussion and you're looking through the second window, you want to win. And you get into very nasty fights with your loved ones because of that. But if you manage to switch perspectives and you become an spectator, then all of a sudden you realize that this discussion about who washed the dishes and who said what is actually kind of silly, considering this is a relationship you're in. It's a long-term relationship and you're going to have to be with this person for a very long time. Come to think of it, if you did say what you said, or if you didn't, does it really matter on the long scheme of things? You start to find these things funny. You no longer take them too seriously. You're not fighting over silly little things. You're not saying hurtful things because you understand the context of what is going on. And just like the ball has it feels everything very intensely. The spectator is the opposite. The spectator doesn't really feel things much. He has so much distance from what is happening that sometimes he doesn't even feel like he's part of the game even. So each of these perspectives serves a purpose, and it's very useful to know how to switch from one to the other. Now, I'm going to tell you first how I figured this out, and then I'm going to show you how you can grow from one to the other, okay? So first, how did I figure this out? Well, when I was having my peak moment, like my life sucked, my life was a nightmare. One of the things that made it so bad was the fact that I was having a lot of problems, like a lot of bad relationships, friendships and partners, and people came into my life that didn't treat me very well. And I felt like a victim. I felt really bad about it. I said, I don't know why. I don't know, what do I have that I keep attracting all of these bad actors into my life? Do I have like a special fragrance that they can smell and find me across the galaxy? Why do I have to collect the worst kind of people around me? I felt like a victim. I felt like I had no agency and I couldn't change things. But then I didn't understand also why they were so mean to me. And then one day it clicked for me. You see, I realized that there's more than one part inside of you. We kind of think that our personality and our mind is something solid, like a toaster, right? It has edges. It's very solid. It's something that never changes. It's the same thing today, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. It's the same thing. But in reality, our mind is composed of many different parts, and they all move, and they are even in a relationship with one another. And I realized that this was the case one day when I snapped and I understood that when these people treated me poorly, one part of me was suffering very much. But another part of me was enjoying it. You see? There was a part of me that enjoyed the suffering of the other part of myself. And that part was the one that was putting me through these relationships. This is the part that made me stay and not. So one part of me was suffering and was a masochist. I felt like suffering was a hallmark of my existence. But this other part of me that I discovered was more of a sadist. I had within myself both the masochist and the sadist. The sadist was the one putting myself into these situations. And that was the day that I got to know evil. I got to know evil and sadism. I got to know them inside of me. What I was seeing was the first signs of the player. The player saw my other part of me as the ball and was putting me in places that he found fun. So when I was looking through the window of the ball, I was suffering. But when I could switch myself and look through the window of the player, somehow I saw, you know what? This is kind of enjoyable for me. And that is why I'm doing this. And I should probably stop because this is not good. See the difference? So, as you can see, there are many different ways that you can look at your life. And when you manage to have these realizations by switching perspectives, then you don't have to convince yourself, I'm not a victim. You don't have to convince yourself, I'm not a loser. You don't have to change your habits. I'm no longer going to get acquainted with people that you don't need to do that because you have understood, a switch has flipped and you have understood the underlying cause. And now you know. And now you don't do it anymore. So we all start out as the ball. So let's go to this. So we all start out here. We're all starting as the ball. When we're born, we know nothing outside of ourselves, and all we know is our hunger, our desires, our fears. That's all we know. And when we want something, we just scream and cry until somebody helps us. And if they don't, then we feel very bad. We cry and we cry, we kick, we cry. But eventually, your mind starts growing just like your body, and you start gaining more levels of awareness. Like your perception grows, and it grows by zooming out. You zoom out to include more of the landscape within your view. So the baby is here, but a child, suddenly the mind expands, and now you can see that other people also have fears and needs and wants. It's not just you. So you become a player because now you have to play with other people. And eventually you can achieve the stage of the spectator as time goes by and you start to understand context and you start to understand long-term things. You're playing with others, but in which context, right? So this is how your mind grows, by expanding or zooming out of situations. So we all have these three. It's just that we pick to look through one of the windows more. We're used to looking through one of these windows more than the others. We're more comfortable here or here or here. And it's not so easy to switch from one another because when you become an adult, you kind of get very fixed in your ways. So it's not easy. So if you're stuck in here, it's going to be hard for you to make the switch. I mean, the window is there, right? But it's going to take you a little to get accustomed and manage to flip the switch and go from here to here. It's absolutely doable, but it takes some effort. And the same thing happens if you want to go from here to here. If you want to go from a spectator to from a player to a spectator, you also need to flip a switch that is there, but you need to find it. And it's not so easy, but it's there, okay? Let me give you an example of switching from player to a spectator. For example, someone who is stuck in the player mode, they cannot see context, so they think that all of their actions are justified. And when somebody says what you're doing is wrong, they take it very personally. Imagine that your family is hungry and you figure that the only way that you can fix this is by stealing something. Now, if you're in the player layer and somebody tells you stealing is bad, it's bad for society, you're going to defend yourself. But my family's hungry, but we needed it. I did what I had to do. And that is true from the player perspective. But from the player perspective, you did nothing wrong. You did what you had to do. But if you can open up your scope a little and see from the spectator side, you can hold both frames inside of you at the same time. And you don't need to fear the contradiction. So you can see that, yes, as a player, you did what you have to do. But as in the context of like society at large, stealing is not good. Like what you have done is good in the player layer, but it's not good for society as a whole. And you can see that and be okay with that. You know, I'm okay with that. I can see how my actions can be justified for me and my family and still be wrong in the context that they are for society at large. That is something that you can only do if you have unlocked the spectator layer. So these are the windows that you have inside your mind. And if you go through the self-help book, even people who understand how awareness works will try and convince you that this is a ladder, that is a progression, and that there is a destiny that you can arrive to. And that being a ball is always wrong and being a spectator always better. But that is not true. We are always fluctuating between the windows. For example, if something traumatic happens to you, even if you're like super spectator mode every day of the week, if something bad happens to you, something traumatic, you're going to go to the ball, straight to the ball. And within the ball, you're going to feel sorry for yourself. You're going to feel terrible and you're going to say, woe me, and why is this happening, and all of that. The difference is if you can switch perspectives, then once you're over like the initial shock, you can get yourself calm and collected and think, okay, I'm going to switch perspectives now. I am going to go player mode or spectator mode, and I'm just going to shake this off of me because enough is enough. Enough is enough. I'm not a victim, okay? Or I'm not just a victim. However, there are moments in your life when you want to be in the ball window. There's moments in your life when being in the ball window is exactly what you want. When? Well, the ball is the best perspective for sensual things. Like if you're going to have a delicious meal, you want to be in the center of it. If you're going to have beautiful sex with someone you love, you want to be in it. You want to take your mind off of other concerns. You don't want to see yourself as a player. You don't want to see yourself as as an spectator. You just want to be there as an object, as the ball. You know, you want to be so subjective in your view that you feel like you're experiencing every single nuance, every little sensation that you can. That's what the ball is good at. You don't want to have sex from the you don't want to have sex from the bleachers. And likewise, if you want to get things happening in your life, if you want to have action, if you want to make things happen, you cannot do that from the ball perspective because the ball has no agency. And you cannot do that from the spectator because he's in the bleachers. He doesn't care. You want to be the player. When you have to play, you want to be the player. And you want to be the spectator when you have to harmonize yourself with other people and when you want to make decisions for your life. You don't want to make decisions from the player perspective where all you want is to win and you don't see half of the map All you see is what's in front of you and the goal, but you don't have all the information. And you don't want to make the decision as the goal either, because you're like, your IQ is like 60. So each window has a reason for being, and you want to be able to switch between them at ease. And that is, I think, the best thing you can do to change your life around, is to find these windows inside your head and find a way to use them in your day-to-day life. That way you can transform your beliefs and you can transform your actions just by changing your point of view. Now, one more thing I want to say. This is a very simplified version of something much more complex. In reality, we have like 10 different windows in our head, and each one has its own uses. And I could explain all of this to you, but I thought, at least for this video, I didn't want to overwhelm you with too much information, so I decided to keep it very simple. Now, tell me if you want to, if you're interested in hearing that. Let me know in the comments if you would like that. And if you want me to send you an email if I ever publish that, then make sure that you put your email in my box by going here. That's tiny. Wait, that's tiny. By going here. There is a form in here, and you can put your email in there. And that way, when I upload something new, you will get an email and you will know to come here. Because, you can follow me and subscribe to my channel and everything. That's lovely. But sometimes algorithm is not very reliable. And even if you subscribe, you're not going to see all my uploads. So the email is for that. Anyway, I hope this was useful, and I'll see you soon.